The rain hammered against the coffee shop windows as Zara Chen wiped down the last table of her evening shift. Her apron was stained with espresso, and her feet ached from standing for 8 hours straight. But at least today had been peaceful. No sign of Tyler anywhere, which meant she could walk home without constantly looking over her shoulder. She untied her apron and grabbed her worn canvas bag from behind the counter. The manager had already left, trusting her to lock up as usual. Zara loved these quiet moments when the shop was empty and she could pretend, just for a few minutes, that her life wasn't falling apart. Her phone buzzed with a text from Nina, her roommate and best friend since college. "Movie night when you get home? I bought ice cream and tissues in case we need to cry about our love lives again." Zara smiled despite her exhaustion. Nina always knew how to make her laugh, even during the worst times. She quickly typed back, "Sounds perfect. Leaving now." The bell above the door chimed as she stepped outside, immediately getting soaked by the downpour. She pulled her thin jacket tighter and hurried down the sidewalk, her sneakers splashing through puddles. The street was mostly empty except for a few cars passing by, their headlights cutting through the darkness. She was halfway to the bus. Stop when she heard it, footsteps behind her matching her pace. Her heart began to race as she quickened her steps, but the footsteps did the same. Please don't let it be him, she thought desperately. "Zara, I know you can hear me." Tyler's voice made her blood run cold. She broke into a run, her bag bouncing against her hip as she sprinted down the wet sidewalk. Behind her, she could hear him calling her name, his voice getting closer. "We need to talk. You can't keep avoiding me forever." Panic flooded her system as she turned the corner, searching frantically for somewhere to hide. The street was lined with expensive shops, all closed for the night. There was nowhere to go, nowhere to escape. That's when she saw it. A sleek black car idling at the curb, its engine purring softly in the rain. Without thinking, Zara yanked, opened the passenger door, and threw herself inside, slamming it shut just as Tyler rounded the corner. "Drive, please, just drive," she gasped, not even looking at the driver. The car lurched forward smoothly, and Zara finally dared to glance at the man beside her. Her breath caught in her throat. He was devastatingly handsome with dark hair. That looked like he'd run his fingers through it, and intense green eyes that were currently staring at her in complete shock. He wore an expensive suit that probably cost more than her rent, and his hands gripped the steering wheel with surprising calm despite having a stranger burst into his car. "I'm sorry," she said breathlessly, suddenly realizing how insane this must look. "I know this is crazy, but there's this guy who's been following me, and I needed to get away, and your car was just sitting there, and I panicked." He said nothing. For a long moment, just drove through the rain-soaked streets while she caught her breath. Finally, he spoke, his voice deep and surprisingly gentle. "Are you hurt?" "No, just scared." She tucked a strand of wet hair behind her ear, suddenly very aware of how she must look. Dripping wet, exhausted, probably smelling like coffee in desperation. "I'm not crazy, I promise. Maybe a little crazy right now, but not dangerous crazy." A small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. It's reassuring. "I'm Zara," she said, extending a shaky hand. "And I owe you a huge apology and probably the biggest thank you in the history of thank yous." Hand, then back at the road. "Damien Cross. And you don't owe me anything. Everyone deserves to feel safe." The name hit her like a lightning bolt. Damien Cross. She'd seen his face on magazine covers at the grocery store checkout, read articles about his tech empire online. He was one of the youngest billionaires in the country, known for being brilliant, ruthless in business, and incredibly private about his personal life. "Oh God," she whispered. "You're Damien Cross." "The Damien Cross. I just carjacked a billionaire." "Technically, you asked me to drive, so it's more like a very unusual taxi service." Despite everything, Zara found herself laughing. "This is so not how I pictured my Tuesday night going." "Same here." He pulled up to a red light and turned to look at her properly. "Do you want to tell me about this guy who was following you?" The light in his eyes shifted from amusement to something more serious, almost protective. Zara felt her cheeks flush under his intense gaze. His name is Tyler Barnes. We dated for about 6 months last year, and when I broke up with him, he didn't take it well. At first, it was just constant texting and calling. Then he started showing up at my work, at my apartment. He follows me sometimes, like tonight. Damien's jaw tightened. Have you called the police? I tried, but they said since he hasn't actually threatened me or gotten violent, there's not much they can do. They told me to document everything and call if it escalates. That's not good. Enough. The protective edge in his voice sent a shiver down her spine. She studied his profile as he drove, noting the strong line of his jaw and the way his fingers drummed against the steering wheel. Everything about him screamed power and control, so different from Tyler's desperate, clinging energy. Where am I taking you? He asked. Oh, anywhere is fine. You can just drop me off at the next bus stop. Absolutely not. It's pouring rain, and this guy could still be out there looking for you. I can't ask you to drive me home. You've already done more than enough. You're not asking. I'm offering. There was something in his tone that brooked no argument. Zara gave him her address, settling back into the plush leather seat as they drove through the city. The car was warm and dry and smelled faintly of expensive cologne. For the first time in months, she felt truly safe. Can I ask you something? She said after a few minutes of comfortable silence. Shoot. What were you doing just sitting in your car on a random street corner at 9 o'clock at night? Damien was quiet for so long she thought he wasn't going to answer. Finally, he said, I was supposed to have dinner with someone tonight. Business. Meeting that was probably going to turn into something more personal. I was sitting there trying to decide if I wanted to go in or just go home. And then I hijacked your evening. Best thing that happened to me all day is the sincerity in his voice made her heart skip a beat. She found herself studying his hands as they gripped the steering wheel, wondering what it would feel like to have them touch her face, run through her hair. Stop it, she told herself firmly. This man was completely out of her league, and she was still dealing with the Tyler situation. The last thing she needed was to develop feelings for someone who lived in a completely different world. But as they pulled up to her modest apartment building and he turned to look at her with those intense green eyes, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that her life had just taken a dramatic turn. And for the first time in a long time, she wasn't sure if she was terrified or thrilled. Thank you, she said softly, her hand on the door handle. For everything, Zara. His voice stopped her from getting out. Take my card. If this Tyler guy bothers you again, call me. He handed her an elegant business card with his name and phone number embossed in gold. Their fingers brushed as she took it, sending electricity shooting up her arm. I couldn't possibly bother you with my problems. It wouldn't be a bother. The way he looked at her made her breath catch, like she was something precious, something worth protecting. It had been so long since anyone had looked at her that way. Good night, Damien Cross. Good night, Zara Chen. Odd. She hurried through the rain to her building, turning to wave before disappearing inside. As she climbed the stairs to her apartment, she could still feel the warmth of his gaze and the solid weight of his business card in her palm. Nina was waiting on the couch with a bowl of popcorn and a concerned expression. You're soaking wet, and you look like you've seen a ghost. What happened? Zara collapsed beside her best friend, pulling the business card from her pocket. I think I just met my future husband. Nina grabbed the card and her eyes went wide. Holy shit, Zara. This is Damien Cross. As in billionaire tech mogul, Damien Cross. I know. How did you meet Damien Cross? Zara grinned, finally allowing herself to feel the full excitement of what had just happened. Well, it's kind of a funny story. 3 days had passed since the night in the rain, and Zara couldn't stop thinking about Damien Cross. She'd catch herself staring at his business card during her shifts at the coffee shop, running her thumb over the embossed lettering and remembering the way his voice had sounded when he said her name. Nina had teased her mercilessly about her billionaire knight in shining armor. But Zara knew better than to get her hopes up. Men like Damien Cross didn't date girls who worked double shifts just to make rent. He'd probably forgotten about her already. She was proven wrong when he walked into the coffee shop on Thursday afternoon. Zara nearly dropped the espresso cup. She was holding when she saw him stride through the door, looking impossibly handsome in a charcoal gray suit. Several customers turned to stare, sensing the aura of wealth and power that seemed to follow him everywhere. "Hi," he said simply, approaching the counter with that small smile she remembered. "Hi, yourself." Surprised he couldn't hear it. "What can I get you?" "Actually, I was hoping we could talk." "Do you have a break coming up?" Zara glanced at the clock. "I can take 15 minutes. "Perfect." She asked her coworker Jenny to cover for her and led Damien to a quiet corner table. He looked oddly out of place among the mismatched furniture and local art on the walls, but he didn't seem to mind. "How have you been?" he asked, studying her face intently. "Any more trouble with your ex?" "No, thankfully. I think the rain scared him off that night." She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, a nervous habit she'd never been able to break. "What brings you to my humble coffee shop, Mr. Cross?" "Damien," he corrected. "And I have a proposition for you." Zara's eyebrows shot up. "That sounds ominous." "Not ominous. Mutually beneficial." Leaned forward slightly, his green eyes serious. "I need a girlfriend." "Excuse me?" "It's not a real girlfriend," he clarified. Quickly, "a fake one. For appearances." Zara blinked at him, wondering if she'd somehow misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" Damien ran a hand through his dark hair, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. "My family has been pressuring me to settle down. My mother threatens to set me up with someone new every week, and my business partners think I'm too focused on work. Having a girlfriend would get everyone off my back. And you want me to be this fake girlfriend because you need protection from Tyler, and I can provide that. Also, you're beautiful, intelligent, and you're not impressed by my money. That's rarer than you might think." Heat flooded Zara's cheeks at the casual way he called her beautiful. "This is insane." "Is it? Think about it. You'd have security, a place to stay if you need it, and enough money to quit this job and focus on your art full time." "How do you know I'm an artist?" Small smile played at his lips. "I may have done some research after the other night. Your Instagram has some incredible paintings." The fact that he'd looked her up online should have been creepy, but instead it sent a thrill through her. "You've been stalking me, research," he corrected, and I was impressed. "You have real talent, Zara. This arrangement would give you the freedom to pursue it. What would you get out of it?" "Peace. No more blind dates arranged by my mother. No more questions about my personal life from reporters. Just a beautiful woman on my arm at social events who can hold her own in conversation." Zara stared at him, trying to process what he was suggesting. It sounded like something out of a romance novel, too good to be true. "What would people think when we inevitably break up? We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. For now, I'm thinking a 6-month arrangement. It should be long enough to convince everyone I'm capable of a serious relationship, and we wouldn't." She trailed off, her cheeks burning. "No physical intimacy unless you wanted it," he said quietly. "This would be purely business." The way he said it, with just a hint of something that might have been disappointment, made her wonder if he was as unaffected by their chemistry as he pretended to be. "I need to think about it." "Of course. Take all the time you need." Stood to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, I think you'd be perfect for the role." After he left, Zara sat in stunned silence until Jenny called her back to work. The rest of her shift passed in a blur of cappuccinos and confused thoughts. Was she seriously considering this crazy proposal? That evening, she found Nina waiting with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. "Spill," Nina demanded the moment. Zara walked through the door. "Jenny texted me that your billionaire boyfriend showed up at work today." "He's not my boyfriend," Zara said automatically, then paused. "Although he did ask me to be his fake girlfriend," Nina nearly choked on. Her low mane, he what? Zara explained the entire conversation while Nina listened with growing amazement. "Let me get this straight," Nina said when she finished. "Damien Cross wants to pay you to pretend to date him. That's the gist of it. You're hesitating. Because it's insane. I barely know him. What if he's secretly a serial killer? What if this is all some elaborate scheme? What if it's not?" Nina countered. "Zara, you've been struggling for years. This could be your chance to finally focus on your art without worrying about rent money. It feels like cheating somehow." "Wait, like I'd be taking advantage. He's a billionaire, offering you a business arrangement. Trust me, he's not being taken advantage of. Zara spent the entire night tossing and turning, weighing the pros and cons. By morning, she'd made her decision. She called the number on his business card, her hands shaking slightly as she dialed. Damien Cross. Zara, I've thought about your offer. There was a pause. And I'll do it. But I have conditions. Name them. Okay, man. First, complete honesty. Between us, no secrets, no surprises. Second, I keep working at the coffee shop until I'm sure this art thing will work out. And third, we set clear boundaries about what this relationship does and doesn't include. Agreed. Can you meet me for dinner tonight? We should discuss the details. Where? I'll pick you up at 7. We're something nice. That evening, Zara found herself standing in front of her closet in a panic. Her idea of something nice probably didn't match a billionaire's standards. Finally, Nina helped her settle on a simple black dress that hugged her curves without being too revealing. Damien arrived precisely at 7 in the same sleek car from that rainy night. He looked devastating in a navy suit, and the way his eyes traveled over her when she opened the door made her pulse quicken. You look beautiful, he said simply. Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself. He took her to an exclusive restaurant. Downtown, the kind of place Zara had only seen in magazines. The Martyr Dean knew Damien's name and led them to a private table overlooking the city. This is intimidating, Zara admitted, looking around at the crystal glasses and silk wallpaper. You'll get used to it. Part of being my girlfriend means attending events like this? Right, your fake girlfriend. Something flickered in his eyes. Of course. Over dinner, they worked out the details of their arrangement. Zara would attend social events with him, stay at his penthouse when needed for security reasons, and receive a generous monthly allowance in addition to having her art supplies and studio space provided. What about affection? She asked, twirling pasta around her fork. I mean, couples are affectionate in public. We'll play it by ear. Hand-holding, maybe an arm around your waist. It's nothing you're not comfortable with. And if people ask how we met, we'll stick as close to the truth as possible. You needed help one night, I was there. As the evening progressed, Zara found herself relaxing. Damien was easy to talk to once she got past his intimidating exterior. He asked thoughtful questions about her art and seemed genuinely interested in her answers. By the time dessert arrived, she almost forgot this was supposed to be a business arrangement. There's something else you should know, Damien said as they shared tiramisu. My business partner, Victoria Sterling, won't be thrilled about this. Development. Why not? She's been hoping to transition our professional relationship into something more personal. She's not going to be happy when she finds out about you. A twinge of something that felt suspiciously like jealousy twisted in Zara's stomach. Is she in love with you? I think she's in love with the idea of being married to me. The power, the lifestyle, the social status. And you're not interested? Not even remotely. Victoria is brilliant at what she does, but she's also calculating and cold. I need someone who balances me out, not someone who amplifies my worst qualities. The way he looked at her when he said it made Zara's breath catch. For a moment, she almost forgot they were talking about a fake relationship. When do we start this charade? She asked, trying to keep her voice light. There's a charity gala next weekend. It would be the perfect debut for my mysterious new girlfriend. A charity gala. Zara laughed nervously. I've never been to anything like that. You'll be fine. Just be yourself. It's easy for you to say. You've been going to these things your whole life. Damien reached across the table and covered her, hand with his. The touch sent electricity shooting up her arm. Trust me, Zara, you're going to be perfect. Looking into his green eyes, she found herself believing him. This crazy arrangement might actually work. What she didn't know was that across town, Victoria Sterling was getting a very interesting phone call from a private investigator she'd hired to keep tabs on Damien's personal life. And the information she was receiving was about to complicate everything. So you're telling me he's been seen with some coffee shop waitress? Victoria's voice was ice cold. Multiple times, they had dinner tonight at La Bernardine. Victoria's manicured nails drummed against her glass desk. Damien Cross was hers, even if he didn't know it yet. She'd worked too hard and waited too long. To let some nobody steal him away. Find out everything you can about this girl. Want to know her vulnerabilities, her secrets, everything. Already on it, Ms. Sterling. As Victoria hung up the phone, a cruel smile played at her lips. If Damien wanted to play games, she was more than ready to play along. After all, she hadn't clawed her way to the top of the corporate world by being nice. This coffee shop girl was about to learn that Victoria Sterling always got what she wanted. And what she wanted was Damien Cross. The charity gala was everything Zara had feared and more. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across marble. Floors and women in designer gowns glided between tables laden with champagne and caviar. She felt like an imposter in her borrowed dress, even though Damien had insisted on buying her something appropriate for the occasion. "You're gripping my arm like you're afraid I'll run away," Damien murmured in her ear as they made their way through the crowd. "Because I might," she whispered back. "Everyone is staring at us. They're staring because you're the most beautiful woman in the room." The sincerity in his voice made her heart skip, but before she could respond, a sharp voice cut through the ambient conversation. "Damien, darling, there you are." Victoria Sterling appeared before them like a perfectly polished nightmare. She was stunning in an ice blue gown that probably cost more than Zara's monthly rent. Her platinum blonde hair swept into an elegant chignon, but her smile was as cold as winter frost. "Victoria." Damien's arm tightened protectively around Zara's waist. "I'd like you to meet Zara Chen." "Zara, this is my business partner, Victoria Sterling. How lovely to finally meet the mysterious woman who's captured our Damien's attention." Victoria's eyes raked over Zara with undisguised assessment. "You're not quite what I expected. What did you expect?" Zara asked, determined not to be intimidated. "Someone more established. But I suppose love makes us all do surprising things." The word love dripped from Victoria's lips like poison. "If you'll excuse us," Damien said smoothly, guiding Zara away before the conversation could escalate. "Further, she hates me," Zara said, once they were out of earshot. "Victoria hates everyone who threatens her carefully laid plans. Don't take it personally." "What plans?" Before Damien could answer, his phone buzzed with an urgent text. His expression darkened as he read it. "What's wrong?" Zara asked. "My security team picked up Tyler Barnes loitering outside your apartment building tonight. He had a camera with a telephoto lens. Fear shot through Zara like ice water. He was taking pictures? It looks that way. I'm having you move to my penthouse tonight. It's not safe for you to go home. Damien, I can't impose on you like that. You're not imposing. You're my girlfriend, remember? It's what any boyfriend would do." The word girlfriend shouldn't have sent such a thrill through her, especially since she knew it was fake. But as Damien's hand found hers and their fingers intertwined, Zara couldn't deny that her feelings for him had moved far beyond the realm of pretense. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of introductions and small talk. Damien's mother, Helen Cross, was a formidable woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper tongue. She grilled Zara about her background with the efficiency of a trained interrogator. "So you're an artist," Helen said, making it sound like a communicable disease. "How interesting. And where did you study?" "I went to the State University," Zara replied, acutely aware of how inadequate that must sound compared to the Ivy League credentials of everyone else in the room. How refreshing. Damien has always been drawn to unique individuals. Before Zara could decipher whether that was an insult or a compliment, Damien's younger brother Marcus appeared at her elbow. "Don't mind, Mother," he said with a conspiratorial wink. "She's just protecting her baby bird. I'm Marcus, by the way. Favorite son." "I can see the family resemblance," Zara said, noting the same green eyes and dark hair. "But I got all the charm," Marcus replied with a grin that was so much warmer than Damien's usual reserved expression. "I like you already. Once who can. Make my brother smile like that is good in my book. I make him smile. Haven't you noticed? He's been grinning like an idiot all evening." Zara glanced across the room to where Damien was deep in conversation with several other businessmen. As if sensing her gaze, he looked up and caught her eye. The smile that spread across his face was soft and genuine, Nothing like the polite expressions he wore for everyone else. Her heart did a little flip in her chest. Later that night, as they rode the elevator up to Damien's penthouse, Zara found herself studying his reflection in the mirrored walls. He'd loosened his tie and unbuttoned his collar. And somehow he looked even more devastatingly handsome in his slightly rumpled state. "You survived your first society event," he said, catching her staring. "Barely. Your mother terrifies me. She terrifies most people. It's one of her favorite hobbies." His expression grew serious. "But you handled yourself beautifully tonight. I was proud to have you on my arm." The elevator opened into a stunning penthouse that looked like something out of an architectural magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city, and every piece of furniture looked like it belonged in a museum. "This is incredible," Zara breathed, walking to the windows. "The guest room is down the hall," Damien said, suddenly formal again. "You should have everything you need, but if you don't, just let me know, Damien." She turned to face him, struck by how alone he looked in the vast space. "Are you okay?" "Why wouldn't I be? You seem different here. Sad, maybe." He was quiet. For a long moment, staring out at the city lights. "This place has never felt like home. It's just where I sleep between meetings." "Where does feel like home?" "I don't know. I haven't found it yet." The vulnerability in his voice made her chest ache. Without thinking, she crossed the room and placed her hand on his arm. "Maybe you will." He looked down at her, and the air between them suddenly felt charged with electricity. For a moment she thought he might kiss her. Instead, he stepped back, putting distance between them. "Good night, Zara. Good night." As she lay in the luxurious guest bed that night, Zara stared at the ceiling and tried to sort through her tangled emotions. What had started as a business arrangement was becoming something much more complicated. She was falling for Damien Cross, and she had no idea if he felt the same way. The next morning brought new complications in the form of Detective Rivera, who arrived at the penthouse. With news about Tyler. "We arrested him last night," the detective explained as they sat in Damien's living room. He had photos of Ms. Chen, detailed notes about her schedule, and what appears to be a plan to break into her apartment. "Oh God," Zara whispered suddenly. "Feeling sick? The good news is that we finally have enough evidence to charge him with stalking and harassment. The bad news is that he made bail this morning." "What does that mean for Zara's safety?" Damien asked, his jaw tight with anger. "We've issued a restraining order, but those are just pieces of paper. I'd recommend continued security precautions until his trial." After the detective left, Zara found herself shaking with delayed reaction. Damien sat beside her on the couch and pulled her into his arms without hesitation. "It's okay," he murmured against her hair. "I won't let him hurt you. This is all my fault. I should have been more careful, should have seen the signs earlier. None of this is your fault. Tyler is the one choosing to behave like this, not you." She pulled back to look at him, struck by the fierce protectiveness in his green eyes. "Why are you doing this?" "Really? I mean, this arrangement was supposed to benefit both of us, but you're the one taking all the risks." "Because I care about you," he said simply. "More than I should, probably? More than you should? This was supposed to be fake, remember? Purely business. And now I can't imagine my life without you in it." The confession hung between them like a bridge waiting to be crossed. Zara's heart hammered against her ribs as she processed his words. "Damien, I know this complicates everything. I know it's not what we agreed to. But I can't pretend anymore that this is just an arrangement." "Good," she whispered, "because I can't pretend either." This time when he leaned in to kiss her, she didn't pull away. His lips were warm and soft against hers, and she could taste the coffee they'd shared that morning. The kiss was gentle, at first tentative, as if he was giving her a chance to change her mind. Instead, she deepened it, her hands fisting in his shirt, as 6 months of suppressed longing finally found its outlet. They finally broke apart. Both were breathing hard. "So, what happens now?" she asked. "Now we figure out how to make this real." Their moment was interrupted by the sharp sound of the doorbell. Damien frowned as he went to answer it, and Zara heard raised voices from the foyer. "You can't keep me from seeing him, James. I'm his business partner. Victoria Sterling swept into the living room like an avenging angel, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor. She stopped short when she saw Zara curled up on the couch. "How cozy," Victoria said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." "What do you want, Victoria?" Damien asked, clearly annoyed by the intrusion. "To discuss the Henderson merger, of course, but I can see you're busy." Her gaze swept over Zara with undisguised contempt. "Perhaps your little girlfriend would like to make herself scarce while the adults talk business." "Zara stays," Damien said firmly. "Whatever you have to say, you can say it in front of her." Victoria's mask of politeness slipped for just a moment, revealing the cold calculation beneath. "Very well. I just thought you should know that there are some interesting rumors circulating about your new relationship." "What kind of rumors?" "The kind that suggests Ms. Chen here isn't quite the innocent artist she pretends to be. Did you know she has a rather substantial gambling debt? Or that she was fired from her last job for theft?" "That's not true," Zara said, rising to her feet. "Isn't it?" Victoria pulled out her phone and began scrolling through what looked like a detailed dossier. $5,000 owed to an underground poker game, terminated from her position at Morrison Gallery for allegedly stealing a valuable painting. You had me investigated. Zara's voice was barely above a whisper. "I had to protect Damien's interests. Surely you understand. Get out." Damien's voice was deadly quiet. "Get out of my home right now." "Damien, darling, I'm only trying to help you see that this girl is using you. The only person using anyone here is you, Victoria. You're fired." Victoria's composure finally cracked. "You can't fire me? I built this company with you. Watch me. James will escort you out and revoke your access to all company systems. If you come near Zara or me again, I'll have you arrested for harassment." After Victoria was forcibly removed, Zara sank back onto the couch, her face pale. "She's right about the gambling debt," she said quietly, "but not the theft. I would never steal anything. I know that." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I know you. It's a real you, not whatever." Twisted version Victoria's investigator dug up. "The debt is real, though. Got in over my head trying to make rent money a few years ago. I've been paying it off slowly, but it's still there." "How much do you owe?" "Damien, you can't just pay off my debts. That's not what this relationship is about. What if I want to? What if I want to take care of you because you feel sorry for me, because I love you?" The words hung in the air between them, simple and profound. Zara felt tears spring to her eyes. "You love me, completely, irrevocably. I love your terrible jokes and the way you scrunch your nose when you're concentrating. I love how you make me laugh and challenge me to be better. I love that you see past all the money and power to the man underneath. I love you too," she whispered. "I have for months. I was just too scared to admit it." This time when he kissed her, it was with the passion of a man who had nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Zara melted into his arms, finally allowing herself to believe that this fairy tale might have a happy ending after all. 6 months later, they were married in a small ceremony on the beach, with only their closest friends and family in attendance. Nina was the maid of honor, of course, and Marcus served as Damien's best man. Even Helen Cross had come around, charmed despite herself by Zara's warmth and genuine love for her son. Tyler Barnes was serving 18 months in prison for stalking and harassment. And Victoria Sterling had started her own company with the settlement money from her severance package. She sent a wedding gift, a crystal vase with a card that simply read, "Congratulations, you won." But as Zara danced with her new husband under the stars, she knew that winning had nothing to do with it. Sometimes the most unexpected encounters led to the most extraordinary love stories. And sometimes, when you least expected it, you found exactly what you'd been searching for all along. "Happy?" Damien murmured against her ear as they swayed to the music. Deliriously, she replied, standing on her toes to kiss him. "Who would have thought that running away from one man would lead me straight to the love of my life?" "Best decision you ever made." "Best decision we ever made," she corrected. And as the waves crashed against the shore and their friends and family celebrated around them, Zara Chen Cross knew that her real story was just beginning.